Straight games, no filler. Welcome everybody to Status Quo. I'm your host, Mars Vindicator, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host,
Queasy Crayfish.
That's right. And so last week we did an episode about Metal Gear Solid, and that was a bit of an interesting episode. We had some guests on, but this week we're back to regularly scheduled programming. So as always, we're going to have 4 topics and we're going to have some flake news and everybody's favorite. So, now it is September and, if you ask me up here in Michigan, I consider that fall, school's back in and all the games are out. That's how they always do us. Remember Soul Calibur, like 2 or something coming out on like the first day of school. So, that's going to be one of the big topics. We're going to, talk about fall games that we're excited for. We're also going to be talking about, games within games, kind of a strange topic, but we'll elaborate on that more when we get to it. We'll also talk about design versus limitation, so like, for example, are some of the features in games, just there because game developers have to do it that way, or are they designed that way? We're going to get to that a bit more later. And, lastly, we're also going to talk about midnight releases. So everybody's favorite way to pick up games, or so we thought. But first, Queasy, are you ready for flake news?
Of course I'm ready for flake news. We didn't have flake news last week, so I am itching and dying for some flake news.
Oh, you better be. At least, well, maybe itching, but not dying, because then you can't.
Itching and dying.
If you died, it's all die after.
That's fine.
So first we'll start off with the Switch. So apparently the Switch has sold 5 million units in Japan. Now, to put that into perspective, the Wii U maxed out at about 3. 3.
Just 3, not 3 million.
Oh no, yeah, literally it was like 3 consoles. It was like Hiroshi-san and then like his son and then like Takano-san. There was like, and they bought all of them. So yeah, and that was between 2012 and 2017 at least. So 5 years, 3 units.
Pretty good.
Switch, the Switch has sold 5 million. So what's your take on that?
I'm happy with my Switch. I don't play it. I recently started playing it a little more, but I think it's a neat little device, and I like the way that you can switch to the TV and to portable so easily and seamlessly with like no delay at all. It's just like pick it up and it's in your hand, put it down, and it's on the TV. That's all you got to do. I think that's pretty cool, and I think it's got some cool stuff on it, and looks like more cool stuff coming out soon. So I'm happy with it.
Do you think the fact that it's nearly already doubled the Wii U in Japan does that tell us anything?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think Wii U is it's just a big misstep by them, and I think that basically just confirms it. I mean, even in Japan, you're like, struggling just to sell four units. I think it goes without saying that they did something wrong with their marketing.
Exactly. So yeah, so that might be some real news there. Next, we got some news about Ubisoft and The Division. So apparently, Ubisoft has some sort of deal with Microsoft that where they were basically told that they can't let The Division look better on the PS4 than on the Xbox. So apparently they throttled The Division on the PS4 to downgrade it to look as good as the Xbox. Now, keep in mind, this is long before the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, which, as we all know, the Xbox One X looks a little better. But on the base systems, the PS4 looked better. So what's your take on that?
That's so trash. Like, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like that was just kind of a reality back in the day. It was like, I remember with the 6th generation, it was like, if you buy it on the PS2, it's going to be, the inferior version of some games. And if you bought it on the Xbox, that was always the graphically superior version. GameCube was kind of in the middle sometimes. I don't know. I feel like it was just commonly known and it wasn't that big of a deal. And just, like what would be the reasoning for that? Like, we can't. I mean, if somebody buys it on the Xbox, they bought it on the Xbox. What are they going to and vice versa. If someone is like smart enough to study both copies and be like, oh, it runs better on the PlayStation than on the Xbox, like they're gonna know why that is. So I don't know what is the whole point of that.
Right. Yeah, that's just kind of weird. Maybe it's because PS4 had the whole Destiny thing, so Microsoft wanted something. But even then, it's not like it's better on the Xbox. It just looks the same. So it's ridiculous. Next is Space Channel 5 Arakata Dancing Show. So if you don't know what that is, it's a new VR Space Channel 5.
Oh boy.
It's coming to Tokyo Game Show. And I guess it'll be on the PS4. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, VR. Why VR?
Because, it's virtual and reality.
Yeah, but it's just like a dancing game. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you, I mean, like, dancing isn't like a exciting experience, like oh, I'm going to like look through the eyes of, it's someone right. Dancing. Like you could just dance. Like
exactly right. But you can't dance in space.
Okay.
With Michael Jackson and Aliens. So.
Okay.
Well, there that is. Maybe not
That's flake news.
Right. I'll definitely take that. But although Sega is obviously hard at work on reviving series like Space Channel 5 that nobody really wants back, surprisingly, in this little span of time where we missed flake news, we got a ridiculous announcement, one that I never thought would happen. And if you know me, Mars Vindicator, you know I love Streets of Rage. And so out of the blue, Sega and some other guys announced Streets of Rage 4. Queasy, what are your thoughts? Is this flake news?
It remains to be seen. I just know the last time they put 4 on the end of something that hadn't been out for a long time, it was
Sonic.
Oh, did you need a glass of water?
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay. Well, yeah, it was trash. Sonic. It was trash. Well, yeah. Of course, it was Sonic was the thing. I know you didn't say that, but it was Sonic, and Sonic 4 was utter garbage, and they didn't even, it was supposed to be a trilogy or whatever, and they didn't even finish it. So, I think the upside to this maybe is that I guess it's being handled by like 3 different indie developers, all with different skill sets or something like that. Or it seemed to be. It was like 3 different like small studios working on it. So hopefully with those 3 together, I don't really know. I'm not really super familiar with their other stuff, but that will, 3 heads are better than 2, better than 1, and better than none.
This is true, and for the longest we had none. And I'm excited for this game on GP. Like I love Streets of Rage, therefore I am excited. But I'm not too big of a fan of the music and the art in the trailer. So, as you said, it's yet to be seen. But still, at the very least, somebody out there cares besides me, and the people at Bomber Games who made Streets of Rage remake, the real Streets of Rage 4. And then after that, literally the day after that, Capcom was like, if Mars Vindicator isn't dead, we're definitely going to kill him now. Because they announced Onimusha is coming to the PS4. Another one of my most favorite franchises. Now, this is not a new game. It is a HD remake of the first game. But as we all know, Capcom loves to hoard their series. So we're probably just getting this so that they can release a new one. We hope. So Queasy, what's your take on that?
It's cool. It's definitely cool. I'm excited to play it again. I just wish it had been like a collection or something, which I'm sure eventually they'll probably get there, but
they're doing all of them.
Yeah. Well, isn't it? I mean, is there announcements of the others, or it's just for now it's just the one, right?
Yeah, there's no announcements, but I just track records. I mean, they
have to.
Exactly. And it's because Onimusha, with that camera, Onimusha was like kind of made in that original RE engine. So I feel like they look at it kind of the way they look at RE, and they re-release and remake those games every, 3.5 months. So, and all of them have come out on the PS3 basically and on the PS4 basically. And, so they're coming.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they are. I just wish it had been like Onimusha collection and it had, multiple games on it or something. So you didn't have to wait, but of course it's Capcom. So
Exactly. Maybe that means these remakes will have more detail. Who knows? So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been Flake News. So we're going to get into our topics of the day. So the first topic we're going to talk about, and this, I think, no doubt, Queasy Crayfish was brought to our minds because we recently started playing Shenmue again. But that is games within games. Okay, so what we're talking about here is like when you buy a game, right? It's like a whole game all by itself, like Shenmue. And then inside of that game, be it through like some sort of open world thing or however, there's like a whole other game inside of that game. Right. So we're just to keep this clear, we're not talking about modes. We're not talking about like Call of Duty Zombies. That's just like a total separate mode that's like advertised, right? We're talking about the way that in like Yakuza, you can go to the arcade and play Virtua Fighter 5. Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing. And, I think, definitely a big company who does this has been Sega. Like we said, they definitely did it with Shenmue, putting Hang On and Space Harrier in that. The Yakuza series has done it with various games. They've had like Puyo Puyo in those. They've had different virtual fighters in them. Actually, I think Yakuza Kiwami 2 has Virtual Lawn inside of it. So that's, very interesting. They've also done it with just Virtual Fighter games. So like the Virtual Fighter 4 Evolution has like a remake of Virtua Fighter 1 in it. And then, other companies like Konami have done it as well. Like Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence has Metal Gear 1 and 2 on it. And for every subsequent like re-release, those games have been included there. So like when you go to the store and you buy like Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection, to me, it's kind of a lazy way to do it because it's like instead of giving Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 like a full on, separate inclusion in the package, they're just included in it because they were on Metal Gear Solid 3, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of weird, but at least the games are there. And in those games, obviously you can just select them from the menu. You don't have to like do anything before you can get there. But obviously if you're playing something like Yakuza, you have to actually play the game first, get past the cutscene to get through it to the arcades where you can then play Virtua Fighter. But the cool thing about those is usually those games have full 2-player support and everything. It's the full game. It's not just a demo. And so yeah, it's kind of a strange phenomenon, if you will. It was really strange to me when they first did it with Shenmue. But it was cool because it was a way to bring back old games and let new generations play them. Cause this is how I found out about Space Harrier. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, it was.
Through Shenmue. And so I've always thought that was cool.
Well, it was really weird in Shenmue because like, the game is set in 1986 and yet you have a Sega Saturn in your house that can play, like Mega Drive and like Master System and it's like general Sega arcade games and stuff. So like it's just kind of strange, but, I think that was, the way Shenmue did it was it just kind of like deepen the immersion, in that world where you can just go into an arcade and you can just play, a full game basically, and it's not just like some little thing that pops up on the screen or something like that. And that was kind of the amazing thing about that game. It's funny because like going back and playing it again, you're like, wow, there's like actually not that much to do in this arcade. Like I remember, it's like a QTE title and all of that stuff and Space Harrier and Hang On. Shenmue 2 did add Outrun and what's the other Afterburner. So that was good to see that. And then as I was thinking about this, I was like, that's like one of the older examples that I remember. But like even before that, there was kind of occasionally there would be like the Easter egg. And the earliest one that I remember was in Pitfall on the Sega Genesis. There was an Easter egg where you could go into some secret room and you could play the original Pitfall on the Atari in its entirety within the Genesis game. And I always thought that was pretty cool. And like I would always try to get to that secret room, even though I was a stupid kid that couldn't figure out how to do it in the first place. But somehow or another, my dad would get me in that room, and I would just be like, okay, now I could play super old classic Pitfall. But
right. So
that was another one. Another one that really stuck out to me was Ninja Gaiden on the Xbox, because that game had, I believe it was Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden 2 like the original NES games. It might even have, if there was a 3, I can't remember, but there was multiple NES Ninja Gaiden games that you could play and unlock in the Xbox game, and there was some roundabout way you had to do it. I think you actually collected like the game boxes or something like that somehow by doing some secret stuff, and so that was pretty cool. And I like the way that game and the way Shenmue make it kind of like this collecting thing. Like in Shenmue, where you can go into if you draw the second prize in the tomato market, you can pick between, Space Harrier and Hang On, and actually have the game box in your in your inventory and stuff like that. So they actually put a lot of time and thought into the game within the game, I think.
No, I think they most definitely did. I would have to say, for me, I think my hands down favorite example of this would have to be Tekken 5. And what's cool is that when Tekken 5 starts off, it just loads you up into this game called Starblade, which I don't think ever came out in the States, but it was like an arcade 3D shmup, kind of in the vein of Namco's older shmup games, but this time in 3D. And so, that was really cool. That was just, I was like, oh, this is kind of dope. I think it's just the first level, but you play through that, then the game starts. But then when you load up the game, you go down into the menu and you see something that says arcade history. And when you click on it, it literally has the arcade versions of Tekken 1, 2, and 3, all in Tekken 5. And so, what's cool about that is, because obviously if you had those games, you could just play them on your PS2, but these were the arcade versions, right? So they were actually different, than the ones that were made for the console. So to me, that was just amazing. It was like I bought, 4 games in one. And at the time, I don't even think I had a copy of Tekken 1. So it was cool to be able to have that and be able to play that. So yeah, I think overall, I think for the most part, a lot of developers, use this as a way to, remind gamers of their old games, remind them of their history, and I think it's a cool way to bring new games to younger generations. Well, I guess old games to younger generations. I just wonder if this is something that we'll continue to see, especially as games become more and more elaborate, like, for example, it would be kind of wild if in like Grand Theft Auto 6 you could play like San Andreas, right?
Yeah.
Because this is like a whole other 40 hour or something game that's inside of a game that would require saving and everything else. So that would be kind of wild. But it for sure works really well for arcade games, which is I think where we see it mostly.
Yeah, I think, that would be ridiculous. I mean, I could see that though. If the game was set in the early 2000s or something, and you had a PS2 at your mansion or something, just play San Andreas, Vice City,
Right.
all that stuff. And yeah, I don't know, I guess the other side of it too is like, like the nightmare segment in Metal Gear Solid 3, which I always forget the name of, but, like that, that was like, wasn't that like an unfinished or a canceled game or something like that they were working on, and then that they like just stuck into Metal Gear Solid 3. So like that's another interesting aspect of it, where you could like potentially take some unused property and put it into another game as this like game within a game.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Guy Savage.
Yes,
is what it was. Yeah, and this just happens if it's after a certain part of the game. If you happen to save at this part and then load it back up, it'll just load you into that game with you having no idea what happened. So yeah, like that's quite strange. Definitely a strange way to bring, like you said, bring out an unreleased game. But shoot, I'm surprised Kojima hasn't put other games in games yet. So
maybe he has. They just haven't been discovered yet.
Right, you could like secretly play Snatcher in Metal Gear Solid 1. That'd be ridiculous. So yeah, it's definitely kind of a strange topic, but definitely something that happens, and it's I think it's worthy of getting talked about a bit. But so definitely on the topic of game developers designing these things in their games. The next topic we want to go into is design versus limitation. So what kind of brought this topic up for me is I was on Queasy Crayfish's hands down favorite video game website. Ask him. He loves it. It's called Polygon. If you haven't heard of it, go to it. They have great great articles, about video game stuff. Just a wonderful, wonderful website. If you can't tell, I'm being ridiculous. But I was there and they had a review for Dragon Quest. I can't even remember what number it is now. What is it? Dragon Quest 12?
It's like 11 or 12 or something. Yeah.
Right. Because they made like an MMO.
There's an X in it.
11. Right? Yeah. There's an X and some lines. So yeah. Dragon Quest 11. Right. So in the review, at least what I took out of it was basically the guy was saying, this isn't an open world RPG. So I don't think it's that good. Right. And that was just so absurd to me because, I was not expecting this game to be The Witcher. I was not expecting this game to be Skyrim. Right. So he was kind of saying like the game has all these, towns that have, different, unique features to them, but the people inside those towns don't say anything. They don't talk to you. They don't give you a bunch of quests or anything like that. And I was just thinking like, man, like this is like, who thought Dragon Quest was going to do that? Who thought they were going to add all these things to it? Maybe because Final Fantasy has been trying to modernize itself basically ever since 10. Really since 7. People probably thought that that's what Dragon Quest is going to do, but Dragon Quest is just staying true to form. And I think both of those paths are great paths for games. We like old RPG experiences. So, it just kind of, to me, especially after playing the game, it's very obvious that the developers made the game like that on purpose. I mean, Dragon Quest 11 is no more than a 3D, with, 3D, great graphics, great motion, Super Nintendo RPG. It's nothing more and it's nothing less. It's very straightforward, pretty simplified battle system, even, simplified menus. And one thing that I personally loved about it was, so when I got to the first town, I talked to this guy and it was like side quests. And I was like, oh, okay, this game does have some side quests. And I looked at like the menu for the side quests and there was literally 26 of them, right? Like it had the number like 0 out of 26 completed. And I was like, I can definitely get behind that, because for me personally, you play these games and, you load them up and there's all these different quests. You turn it on, you got waypoints going everywhere. This is something that, Queasy Crayfish brought up to me. And yeah, and it's just like sometimes with a lot of those games, you just get lost in the things to do. That was how I felt about Final Fantasy 15 after a while. It's like, oh, I got this monster quest and then this side quest and this story mission and then this and I got to do that. I got to go fishing here. And yeah, and it gets to be too much, And so I'm not saying that I don't enjoy, I still enjoy those games, but it's great to have games like Dragon Quest where it's just designed to be straightforward, And so, yeah, it was, like I was just saying, basically it's just very obvious to me that some developers are not just going to bend to, this, 2010s, preferred game design model. Some games belong how they are. I think another great example of this was just the way that a lot of fighting game developers basically went back to having 2D fighting games. Mortal Kombat did it, Street Fighter did it. So even though the models are in 3D, the plane is still 2D. It just shows that while 3D is great, it works for a lot of good games, Dead or Alive, Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur, but these are all games that came out in 3D. It didn't mean that having 2D as the fighting plane was bad. It was just another way to do it, right? So another clear case where like, yes, they could make Street Fighter look like Power Stone if they wanted to, but why? This is a great design and it works well for a game,
Yeah, I think it kind of speaks to this thing where like, because we have the capability to do whatever we want, we should do it. And I think that's just a mistaken path to take. I mean, it's weird too because you don't see like criticisms the way they criticize Dragon Quest in that case. You don't see that in like, I don't remember reading anything about like Octopath Traveler like that. I don't remember them saying like, oh, how come it's like, pixel art graphics and, how come it's like, or how come, no one criticized the towns in that game. The towns are, as simple as it gets. They're definitely old school RPG level of depth, So, why is that game gets a pass and Dragon Quest is for some reason expected to be different? I don't know. Is it just because of the graphics? Because it's actually full 3D or something like that? See, that's what I mean. It's like there's, depending on your art style, depending on, how clear your design choice is, I guess, then I guess you have certain expectations that certain players are going to have for the game. So that person goes into Dragon Quest thinking it's going to be Final Fantasy 15 and have all these, unlimited possibilities and things to do and 8,000 side quests. And then when it doesn't, they get disappointed or whatever. I don't know. It seems ridiculous to me. And I always think like, why, like you're saying with like 2D and 3D fighting games. I mean, is someone going to sit up here and say like, oh, Street Fighter is crappy because it doesn't have a third plane, to
Right.
fight in just because we can do it. Does that mean we have to do it? No, it absolutely does not. So why in that case is that okay? But then in the case of something like Dragon Quest, it's like, oh, it's, I expected a lot more or whatever. I don't know. It just seems like grasping at straws, trying to come up with something to criticize within the game. And, it's like some games just aren't, they just don't conform to this modern thing of every game's got to have unlimited gameplay and every game's got to have all these like procedurally generated things to do and stuff. And I don't know, it just seems absurd to me to to expect that from every single game that comes out practically.
Right. No, yeah, I definitely do think that it is absurd. I will say that actually I just saw information that Dragon Quest does have more than 26 side quests, but I guess you can only see 26 in the beginning. But even still, I think that speaks to the way that they're designing the game. Like, it's not going to overwhelm you from the very start. It's not just going to throw you in the game and then allow you to do a bunch of stuff, which the Elder Scrolls games do, and they do it well. But those are those games. We still want Dragon Quests to exist. And yeah, and I think conform is just a very, very great word to use for this because, why is it that every game in the RPG genre has to become open? Why can't RPGs remain the way that they were on Super Nintendo, but just have better graphics, or just remain the way that they were on the Super Nintendo period, like Octopath Traveler?
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of different avenues, a lot of different gamers out here. Every game doesn't have to have all of these big things. And I think a great game, I think this was a point that I think that you brought up or somebody brought up to me. Or no, actually it might have been Zilla, from, Hyper Evo and stuff. He was saying that basically Assassin's Creed just basically is like The Witcher now. Don't get me wrong. I definitely like the, setting that Odyssey is going to be in and all that. But, you got dialogue choices. You can play as a guy or a girl. It's like it just focused on becoming this open world RPG where you can choose everything. And, I remember back in the day where, Drake King Dave, another affiliate from Hyper Evo, he was saying, he would play Mass Effect all day. And then if he wasn't playing that, he'd be playing Assassin's Creed. And if he wasn't playing that, he'd be playing Halo. Right. But I don't think there was ever a thought in his mind that like Mass Effect should become Assassin's Creed or that Assassin's Creed should become Mass Effect. I think that those were two great games, at that time, two very separate, ways of going about the gameplay. I think the only similarity was that they were third person. But if Dragon Quest, if Assassin's Creed adds a party function to it, it has basically just become Mass Effect at that point. So yeah, does every game need dialogue? Does every game need, every person in the game to have a voice and every person in the game to have quests to give the character? Does every game need to have create a character? I just don't think so.
No, absolutely not.
What's even worse is, did you see that 2K trailer I sent you the other day? Or that 2K thing? Literally, like you're riding scooters and playing dodgeball. That game has become Fortnite Grand Theft Auto. It's not even a simulation basketball game anymore.
Well, yeah, I think the Assassin's Creed comparison is really good because it's like that Assassin's Creed really should be like an assassination game, it should be like that's what your whole thing is like. Here's your target, go assassinate them, and climb up the church steeple and do all this stuff. I mean, that is in the game, but I feel like it's when you think of those games, you don't really think of that. You think of like parkour and like
honestly.
You think of like the weird futuristic segments and I don't know, like the different assassin characters. Yeah, the open worlds and like the Templars and all this stuff. Like that's the kind of stuff that is associated with Assassin's Creed. It's not like, these sick assassinations. I shot a blow dart through 3 different window panes and it hit the guy in the neck, and like, like that's, you don't think about stuff like that. And I was thinking like a game like Hitman was something that like, that's what Assassin's Creed should be, where it's like, go kill this guy. You have to assassinate this person, and for some reason it's not. It's like they built the game up to be this big IP that's going to be, one of their big tentpole AAA games. And in order to be that, it has to be everything to the player. It has to, satisfy the RPG player, it has to satisfy, the action game player. It can't be too difficult, but it can't be too easy. It's got to have full voice acting and all, all this stuff, all the pop game kind of stuff. And, I think also like, doesn't this kind of just reveal how easy it must be to actually make these open world games? So I feel like back in the day, I always thought like, when San Andreas and stuff were out, I was like, wow, this game must have been just incredibly difficult to make. And who knows, it might have been because a lot of, those games were more handcrafted back then, I feel like. But I think when you get into like these big Ubisoft open world games and just big popular franchise games, I don't know. I think that, Infamous Second Son, stuff like that, it's very likely that these are just, with the procedural generation and all the algorithms and stuff like that, that like the amount of work that these people have to do to make these games may not be that much. I mean, these open worlds, they might have a million things to do, but they're empty and soulless, the way that something like Shenmue was not, because it was so handcrafted and everything. And so I definitely don't think I would much rather just see smaller scale design, much more focused. I mean, like a game like Inside or Limbo or something like that. It's like just 2D minimalistic art style, but it's so much more impactful playing one of those games than it is playing Assassin's Creed, because there's just, I don't know, there's just so much more heart in it and so much more intention behind the design.
Right. No, definitely. I feel like the same people must be running Ubisoft that ran SNK that also run Taco Bell. Like, because I feel like everything that all 3 of these companies put out are just like the same thing with just like very minor changes, because I mean, don't get me wrong, I love SNK, but like they have like 80 different fighting game franchises, Art of Fighting, World Heroes, Samurai Showdown, and then and then all those got put together into, Fatal Fury, and then all those got put together in King of Fighters, just like Taco Bell, everything that they take the beef out of something and put chicken in it. And now said, chicken double steak, you know what I'm saying? It's just like the same thing, and that's how I feel like Ubisoft games are at this point, like, I don't think there's a big difference really between, Far Cry and Assassin's Creed. One is just first person and deals with like other locations in the world, but just go up and do all this open world stuff, so it's not to say that these aren't great experiences, because they are, they can be, but yeah, it's like, how much are they really going to sacrifice just to do things because we can,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, would you rather go to, your locally owned Mexican food restaurant and have, a really well made taco there or something like that? Or would you just, just be so hung up on the Dorito tortilla shell that you just had to go to Taco Bell? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think the real thing is both of those things should be able to exist without people criticizing one for not being the other.
Right.
Because don't get me wrong, I do like Doritos, Locos, Tacos now. Okay. But then when I want to go to Mexican town, I want to go to Mexican town, But it shouldn't be like, well, I went to that Mexican restaurant over there, and despite the fact that they're owned by alleged real Mexicans, they didn't have any Doritos tacos, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's like, go there and enjoy the food, what I'm saying?
No Doritos.
Right. Like, what's wrong with these guys?
And they call themselves authentic Mexican.
Give me a break. you know. So yeah, so as we've done a lot of talking about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you know, despite my criticisms, you know, it's still in a vacuum. I think it's going to be an interesting experience. And so this is a game that I'm excited for the fall. Okay. So Assassin's Creed, I know I said I was going to do this topic last, but the segue was just too good. So, you know, we had, so Assassin's Creed, and honestly, I am still excited to play the obviously, you know, unattended to unimportant simulation parts of 2K19. You know, I'd like to see what they've done. This is going to be the 20th game in that franchise. So I'm kind of excited just to play a basketball game. I haven't played one in a long time. FIFA as well. I kind of want to just get into a sports game this fall, but outside of those, there's going to be a lot of, other, you know, big hits that we've all been waiting on. Definitely Black Ops 4. I like when Treyarch makes Call of Duty. So I think, you know, QZ, I think you said you're going to get that as well.
Yeah, I'm going to get Black Ops 4.
Black Ops. You know, with that game, yeah, I'm really excited to see how they do their Battle Royale mode. I'm probably not going to play it, you know, if I do get it, but I'm definitely excited to see it. I'm also just excited to see how much local multiplayer they're going to put in this game. And then if we will get a story mode DLC, you know, at least announcement by January, you know.
Yeah. By January.
Yeah, you know, something. Yeah, so now, yeah, you know. With any thoughts or anticipation on Call of Duty?
I mean, yeah, I think it's like, I don't know. The no single player campaign thing has me a little bit worried, but I think that at the end of the day, I don't play these games for the single player campaign. So, you know, why am I worried about it? I think it's just kind of like, it might just be the culmination of what I've been thinking. I mean, this franchise needs to do is just focus on your multiplayer. That's all anyone plays with a Call of Duty. So like, why are we even bothering this, you know, this single player campaign with Kevin Spacey in it and all this stuff?
Right.
Like, I mean, you know, it's right. It's awesome that they put all of these, they put so much work into them and they try to make them these big cinematic things, all these action scenes and stuff like that. And they have had some decent campaigns, I guess. I've heard Black Ops had a good campaign, the original one. I did see parts of it because like my roommate in college is playing it. But, you know, and I remember Call of Duty 4 had a pretty decent campaign. Probably, you know, not the best first person shooter campaign ever, but it was definitely one of the better Call of Duty campaigns. And Modern Warfare 2 had a pretty interesting and, you know, a lot of shock value and stuff like that with the airport segment and all that. But, you know, by and large, they're just kind of like distractions when you're sick of playing multiplayer or your achievement hunting or something like that, you know. So it's not really that big of a deal to me. But I think that my hope is that the lack of single player campaign means they're just going to focus that much more on the multiplayer aspects. And as far as I know, this is more of a grounded first person shooter. There's not going to be so much like jetpacks and running on walls and stuff like that, which I'm really happy about that because I got so tired of that, especially Advanced Warfare did it terribly, but 3 toned it down a little bit, made it a little bit easier to deal with, but I just don't like the whole, I don't know. It's like every time you see somebody, they double jump in the air and, you know, these Gen Z Call of Duty players are just too fast for me. I can't kill them, you know, so.
Right. Damn whippersnappers.
Yeah, so I'm excited for boots on the ground, you know.
Right. So yeah, so you know, there's that. There have been a couple of games that have already released, you know, as of this podcast that you know, that I am playing. Probably out of those, the biggest one, at least for me, is Dragon Quest, and I've already touched on that. But I mean, yeah, it's if you like JRPGs, especially if you decided you liked JRPGs before like 2005, you will love this game. It is just the most straightforward JRPG out. It's really refreshing to play something like that. Other than that, there's Destiny 2 Forsaken, you know, which recently I have decided to go back and just, you know, play Destiny a little bit for the multiplayer. And even when Destiny 2 came out, I said, you know, I'm playing for 60 and I'm done. So I'm excited to see what Forsaken has in it. You know, it's not going to be my go-to game period for the fall, but I like to see how those bows work. And also Zone of the Enders, second runner, got re-released, this time in 4K and VR. So usually, I kind of, sometimes I'm excited for re-releases, sometimes I'm not, but I mean, if it has VR and it's mech, how could you not play it? Kojima,
Yeah.
But then of course we have some other very big games, that are dropping. So another one of those big games for us that we've actually already talked about a bit is Pokemon Let's Go.
Yes.
And so, as at first, I'll admit when I first saw that game, I was not that excited for it, but as the details have come out, I've gotten more excited just because overall it does look like a pretty good remake of Red, Blue, and Yellow, or at least, that Kanto, region. It has all the gym leaders. I'm still a little upset about the random Pokemon battles, but other than that, it looks really cool. I'm sure the multiplayer will be cool. It'll be cool to play with people. And it's also going to be cool to have the connectivity with Pokemon Go.
Oh yeah, definitely excited for that. I just, only thing that bothers me with that is being that it's only the Kanto region, I guess, there's a lot of stuff I'm not going to be able to use, but I guess I got a lot of good Kanto stuff too. And I feel like this is just means possibly this could be, some new platform for them so that we could potentially see with Generation 4 coming out soon in Pokemon Go, we could potentially see some, expansions into the Let's Go franchise as well eventually.
Wait, did they say that it's only going to be Kanto Pokemon used in the game, period?
No, I don't think they've said that, but it's how it appears.
Okay, because they've never, in the past, they've never limited if a remake comes out, they've never limited the Pokemon to only being from that region. They only do it based on what Pokemon are out. So for example, after Ruby and Sapphire came out on the GBA, then when Fire Red and Leaf Green came out, since it was a newer game, you could use all the Pokemon from Ruby and Sapphire.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just assuming it would be like that. I mean, I know this is technically a new franchise they're starting, but I just figured since those Pokemon are already in Go, I hope
I do
they'll
too.
be in there.
Yeah, I hope as well. But
I doubt they'll appear in the story. But
I'm not sure what they're going to do with it, but I mean, I guess it remains to be seen how closely this is going to. I mean, obviously, with the Pokeball mechanics and stuff like that, it definitely is mirroring Go pretty closely. But I think it remains to be seen just how closely it will. I mean, is it really gonna, the way the gyms work and the way you can battle and defend and all that stuff? Is that all going to be? Are they going to have raid battles and things like that? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how closely it is to the Go mechanics of everything.
Right. See, yeah, that's interesting. I feel like you're hoping that it's closer to Go. I feel like I'm hoping it's closer to the originals, but
yeah,
hopefully it's somewhere good in the middle. And so then, also, a couple of the games coming out that I'm just kind of excited to see how they do. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I still haven't played one of the new Tomb Raider games. I don't know why. I don't know why you're so down on that series. I mean,
I like original Tomb Raider. I do like the old classics. Just when I've never played any of them, but I don't know. Every video I've seen of these games, they just look I don't know. It's that trailer they showed for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I think it was during the Square Enix showcase at E3. It was just it was insane that they thought that was innovative gameplay or whatever, or exciting gameplay. It's she's creeping up behind a guy and then it's press X to stealth kill. It's I never seen that before. It's just I don't know. It's pretty looking. It has nice graphics or whatever. All these NPCs walking around saying curse words and where's that girl? I don't know. It's just so phony, edginess and stuff. I don't know. I think it looks like absolute garbage.
I mean, I think that's quite a push. I mean, I think if anything, it's kind of similar to it's kind of like how you have these summer blockbuster films. I feel like it's just one of those games, and I feel like it's just one of those experiences. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to sit up here and say that, Uncharted was my most favorite series of all time, right? But I mean, those games were fun. They were definitely fun to watch, so yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking, but I think you get like, yeah, I mean, I think you get like decent run of the mill action out of it, so.
It is true that they are definitely trying to make it like a blockbuster movie thing, because it's like they're marketing this one now as like the end, the conclusion to the trilogy, and of course that's the way every movie series seems to be now. So it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be cool to be out. I'm not gonna buy it at launch or anything, because like I said, I hadn't even played the other two Tomb Raiders, but because I liked Uncharted, I figured, eventually I'll check them out. Other than that, though, we have Spider-Man, right? Mm-hmm. So that is coming out this week. And I mean, Spider-Man. He's never been my favorite hero, but the Spider-Man games have always been like pretty good. I feel like, especially when you talk about 3D action games, Spider-Man or Batman, I feel like there's no other place to go. Pretty much every other comic book game has been kind of terrible. When you talk about like, regular 3D action games. So I'm kind of excited to see Spider-Man.
Spider-Man was good, even in 2D though. I mean, Maximum Carnage, Separation Anxiety, those are pretty good games.
Well, yeah, but you had I feel like you had other good 2D ones too. Once you got to 3D, like he's like the only one that works. It's just something about that web slinging and like it just never gets old.
Yeah, it definitely looked cool. I thought the footage I've seen of it, I wasn't real sure at like the initial showing, but then I think later on when I saw some more gameplay, it definitely looked pretty cool. And the level that they took the web slinging to, I think, is impressive. And like just the speed with which you're like flying through these environments, and it's like those kind of visuals weren't even possible until a few years ago.
Right. So yeah, so that that'll definitely be cool. Other than that, another game on the Switch, like another 100% reason for the Switch to exist is Smash Bros. So Smash Bros. Ultimate is going to come out. Again, it's another one of those games. Like I've never been a huge Smash Bros. Player or anything, but I definitely love that series exists. And one of the big things I'm excited to see how this works out for the game, especially going forward, is if this game does become the new tournament standard. I actually personally think that there's a lot going against it to make the tournament standard, just the sheer fact that it has every character in it. And the last time we got a big fighting game with every character in it, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, it was seriously and ridiculously unbalanced, right? So you pretty much had to make tiers for it. So I kind of think that that's the way Smash Ultimate's competitive play is going to be in the future. But there's like about 80 characters with probably more to come. But I'm sure that we'll see tournament gameplay go down to maybe about a good 20 or 30, characters. But overall, I mean, it's definitely going to be a fun game, and it's definitely going to be the final nail in the Wii U's coffin. There's basically no reason to go back to the Wii U once that game comes out.
Yeah. I think that the giant roster just kind of means that I think it's just kind of confirmation that they're not really that concerned about like the esports scene as far as Smash Bros. I mean, it seems like they can't seem to convince anybody to play a different game over Melee anyway. So it's like, why not just make a game that we know is going to appeal to a lot of people? And I don't know if I'm going to even buy this game because I don't have any friends. So,
geez,
what am I going to do with it?
It's rough. I mean, you could use it to, keep your Switch disk drive clean or something,
Yeah.
Use it as a placeholder. And then last but certainly not least, I think the game, I guess outside of Let's Go, the game that you and I have like the most equal excitement for is definitely Soul Calibur.
Oh yeah.
Hands down.
We are going to get some matches in Soul Calibur 6. I'll tell you that right now.
Without a doubt. That was one of those fighting games that to me, or one of those games period that I thought may just die out. It kind of just seemed like after 5, they were just kind of, that series was just going to kind of fall off the face of the earth. I don't know why, but it just kind of seemed that way. But they brought it back, and so far it's looking great. I've even been pretty excited about the announcements they've made for like the single player modes and things like that. So I think this game will be dope, multiplayer wise. probably just in straight up competitive wise, and also for single player.
Yeah, I think that with like the character interactions and stuff like that, that's I think even like dialogue choices, I believe, and separate character episodes and everything. I think it's going to be good, and I'm just looking forward to running some sets, as they say.
Right. See, I definitely will be using Taki, so Taki and maybe Selena.
I'll be using Shangfa.
All girls.
Probably. Who else am I going to use in that? Maybe Nightmare, one of them. I don't know.
Is there a Korean male character in it yet? No Yunsung or
unless that like Gro dude is Korean. I don't know.
That'll suck because I did like them. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, I think that in other falls this generation so far, we've had like other games that have come out that were like really big and really dope. But I think that like, collectively, I kind of think this is the best fall. It's spaced out pretty well. And there's something at least that I want to play that's definitely coming out like every month. So I'm really excited for this fall.
Yeah. A couple other honorable mentions. I would say Hitman 2. I think I want to try that out. Definitely talking about Hitman. I think I hear lots of good things about that.
How did I miss Red Dead Redemption?
Red Dead Redemption. Yeah, see, I'm not really hyped for that one.
You're not hyped for Red Dead Redemption?
No, I didn't like the original.
Oh, you didn't? I didn't even actually really play it. I just, I don't know, it just looks cool. I just kind of figured it'd be dope. I might get it. I actually heard that the GameStop staff said that they didn't like it. I never take GameStop staff opinions well, so then this game must be a masterpiece. It's usually not that smart, but usually I have a couple of cool people that work there, but yeah. So
and Fallout 76, I will be trying that. That would be my second Fallout game now after 4. So
now that'll definitely be one that I will for sure just be streaming, just watching, but could be cool. I mean, it should be dope. And then there's also Battlefield, that might be interesting this time, despite all the controversy. Battlefield, that one other shooter game that comes out sometimes when Call of Duty's come out.
It got delayed too.
Oh, did it? Oh, speaking of delays, Battlefield. Now, speaking of delays, Spyro's coming out in the fall.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'll be kind of excited for that, even though I'm still a little pissed I didn't get to play it this summer. So, with that being said, we got a whole bunch of fall games coming out, and everybody loves going to get their brand new games. But this week, I went to get some of my big fall releases, those being Dragon Quest and Zone of the Enders. Because I already had Destiny, but those games came out the same day as Destiny 2 Forsaken, right? So I go to GameStop at like 8:50 because that's what they do now. They usually don't do the midnight releases, right? So I'm kind of expecting, a decent. I mean, like I remember when when Monster Hunter came out, there was a bunch of people in there. Fighter Z store was full. I remember when Skyrim came out, there was a line outside of the door all down the street. The same thing for, I remember like a Madden came out. Yeah, I'm always like the guy that's like getting the other game that comes out. Like I remember like I went to like a GameStop. It was like Madden had come out and I was like, got to line and I was all quiet like, I'm here for King of Fighters. Like I didn't even want anybody to know.
Yeah. It would have been, should have been yelling that out.
Right.
Play some real games,
Exactly. So it's like, I'm always like, getting that other. Literally, I think I did the same thing with Sonic Generations too. Something else came out that day, and everybody was,
what was that
or something? I don't even remember. It was like a shooter or like, but I'm like, I'm here for Sonic Generations. Can I get my T-shirt, please? So that's always me. But anyways, going to get my Zone Enders, going to get my Dragon Quest, and so I was expecting, a bunch of people to be out there, especially because we live in a college town, so the students are back. Two really big universities. So I got there and there were a bunch of games sitting on the counter. Well, not a bunch, like a stack of games, like 8 games. And I looked at the stack and literally all of them were Dragon Quest, right? And then next to that stack was the sole copy of Zone of the Enders that they had, which was mine. And there was nobody in the store. Right. And so then as I was leaving the store, I saw this other girl run in, but she was there earlier in the day when I was, handling my pre-orders, and I knew that she was there for Dragon Quest as well. So like literally I went to like a midnight release, for, on the day that Destiny 2 Forsaken is coming out, in a very populated area, 2 big universities, and nobody was there for Destiny. Right. And I like to the point that I asked the lab, I was like, do you guys have physical copies of Destiny? Like, what's going on? And she was like, yeah, we have them, here they are. But literally nobody was there. And, I feel like this is just a bigger matter than just, I think the smallest point of this is that people aren't playing Destiny. I think that that's a part of it. But I think that even bigger, this is just reflective of the time that we live in now. I think this is just showing that, number one, GameStop sucks. Nobody wants to go there. That's definitely one. I think number two is just that people are buying digital games, because it's like, why get up and go here to get this when I could just download it, and then have it right at midnight or whatever. But actually Destiny wasn't even like coming out until the next day, but yeah, I was just so shocked to go to one of these releases and have nobody be there because, for so long, that had become a thing. Especially going back to like the early, early PS3 era. I'm pretty sure, I think maybe the first game I did it for was like GTA 4 or something like that. You're just used to having the big line. Everybody's ready to get the game and, it's midnight and, so I was just very, very shocked. I'm excited to see, I'm interested to see how this plays out for the other big fall releases this year. Maybe Call of Duty will draw more people. And I don't know how the Madden one went, so we'll see. So, Queasy, anything on this?
I've done only 3 midnight releases, and they were all Call of Duty in my lifetime. The first one I did, which is funny because I was not even buying the game, was Modern Warfare 2, but I went with my roommate in college for the midnight release of that, and I think I bought Dragon Age Origins. But yeah, my roommate was buying Call of Duty. Everyone was waiting in line for Call of Duty. They were handing out like posters and stuff like that. And, and it was a big long line. We were probably there for hours, and
wow.
This was not at GameStop. It was just at a department store, local, Midwestern grocery department store chain that people might know. But, what?
Wait, you talking about Meijer?
Yeah.
That's even more ridiculous because they're open 24 hours.
I know. Yeah, so it wasn't even like unusual for them to be open, but yeah, so we were in there and we were waiting in the line and stuff, and they like waited until, of course, like right at midnight to release the game, like they were supposed to back in those days. I guess now it's what they do them early now, but
stop.
Yeah, back then at least with Meijer, they were like, yeah, we're going by the book. They waited right until midnight. But yeah, it was like, that was pretty awesome. There was a ton of people there. Everyone was talking about the game. And then the next year we went for Black Ops, and the line was considerably smaller. And then the next year after that, I went with another friend of mine for Modern Warfare 3, and there was like barely any line. It was just like a handful of people there. And so you definitely saw like the decrease in popularity of those kind of things, just, even back in those days. For that franchise. Of course, that franchise kind of had its, the writing on the wall for that sort of thing. And people really starting to grow tired of, the constant releases and all of that stuff. That was like a whole thing with Call of Duty anyway. But yeah, I think just like, another game I might have done that for was Dark Souls 3 when that was coming out. But I almost was like, should I go out and get this now? I think I was on vacation or something even that week. And, but I was like, you know what? Like, why go out when I could just be like, I could just sit here and download it, at midnight and play it, And so I just did that, and it was fine, and I played it probably till 2-3 in the morning or something like that. Didn't even leave the house. So like that was just I feel like a lot of people probably do that. Even if they are planning on getting the physical copy, they might just decide, why am I going to do that? I could just download it. So much easier. And, it's a sign of the times. And, I can't really speak to who's playing Destiny and who's not, but definitely it's a series with some difficulties.
Right. And it just, it makes so much sense. It's like, take, for example, because, I'm Mars Vindicator, and so everybody knows things that I've said in the past about digital games and physical games. And I still feel that way for, a lot of certain games. Like I was elated to be able to go and get that physical Zone of the Enders. It has like a foil cover and stuff, but that's that kind of stuff, like I'm looking at here right now. So the GameStop trade-in value for FIFA 18, as of September 5th, 2018 is $8, right? So it's like, you're probably going to keep your FIFA until you get the next one, right? Mm-hmm. So what's the point in buying that game, physically, just to, it's like bringing it to the store to get $8 to put towards your next FIFA isn't even worth the trouble. When you could literally just download it at home and just play it, especially for a game like that when it's, it's mass. FIFA is like the best. It's like the most selling game, period, just because it's soccer, and it's on every system. So it's like, it's super mass produced. It's not rare or anything. You're not going to have somebody, man, let me get your feet. He got a FIFA 18, like in the year 2050, nobody's going to, flip this shit over that. Maybe Metal Jesus will make a video about it. You know what I'm saying? In 2015 or something. Who knows?
Shots fired.
And drive the market price up. I'm just saying, hey guys, there's Metal Jesus here. We're checking out FIFA 18. This was a cool game back on the PlayStation 4. You got to play as a lot of great soccer players. If you ever have a chance, go to your local store and check it out. The servers are down as they have been for the last 20 years, so you gotta buy it physically. So check it out. And I'm gonna check, eBay and shit, and it's like FIFA 18 PS4 is gonna be like, $6,000 and shit, thanks to a couple of YouTube videos. But yeah, that's not going to happen. Right. So the point is just go home and, download it. And that's just what a lot of people have been doing, especially for these just big, huge, just these big name games, and even Mars Vindicator, I was the physical stalwart, for so long. But I mean, if I'm going to buy Black Ops, I'm probably going to buy it digitally. I rebought Destiny 2 digital on the Xbox. I don't need to own that disc,
Right.
So these games are going to come and go. I'm just going to enjoy them while they're here, so.
Yeah, that's a very good point about the service game. I mean, yeah, Destiny, as you said, someday it's just not going to be playable really. So,
right. Yeah.
Why even, just so you can have the box, there's these super minimalist box covers with,
exactly.
nothing inside.
Nothing inside.
And you gotta have that on your shelf.
And the game has a download anyway. And then, these things are mass produced. So if you lose your physical copy of Destiny, you're not going to have trouble getting it.
Yeah, it would be a lot better. If you're a big Destiny fan, it would probably be a lot more beneficial to spend your money on like a Destiny, like a really nice Destiny poster or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just, they sell these things at Costco for crying out loud. So yes. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been Status Quo. Definitely check this out. Definitely hit us up on Instagram. Leave us some comments talking about your favorite games or, games you're excited to see this fall. Games where you feel like where you see limitation versus, intentional design, whatever. Hit us up on Instagram and tell us how much you hate us. We'll still get the comment, we'll be there on Instagram, but we are gonna get out of here. So this is Mars Vindicator.
And I'm Queasy Crayfish, and I'm gonna stay right here.
He's gonna stay. So you guys enjoy him and wait some tuna fish.
Okay. Let me tell you about how Chrono Trigger sucks.